Hey guys, I'm your host Tara A. Devlin, and welcome to this week's episode of Kowabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. In case you didn't hear, my latest book Bankai, Baffling Japanese Internet Mysteries Volume 1, is out on Amazon right now. If you're a fan of internet mysteries, then make sure to check it out, because I dove deep and far into my research for this one, and there are some truly baffling and terrifying tales in there. Read about the young man who received unaddressed letters in his mailbox that led to a terrifying tale of stalkers over several days, or the Nichan money hunt that saw someone hide money in Tokyo with clues to lead smart readers in the right direction. A hunt that went in a direction no one saw coming, and is still spoken about to this day. You can find these and plenty more mysteries inside Bankai, Baffling Japanese Internet Mysteries, on Amazon right now. On this week's episode, we're taking a look at a story that instantly became one of my favorites when I read it. This one has all of the things I love: abandoned shrines, terrifying ghosts, the threat of something even more evil lurking behind the scenes, and an epic story full of mysteries and horror. I'm not going to say too much more about it because this one is better enjoyed by taking it all in as it happens. So, let's get right to it. This week's story is called Evil Spirit Den. This is a true story that happened to myself, my wife, and my older brother several decades ago that involved an entire city. A story so terrifying it dragged us to the upper limits of fear. This may get rather long, and I'm not used to typing on here, so please forgive me if any parts are difficult to read. It all started when I was in the 3rd grade of elementary school. My older brother and 3 of his friends invited me to check out this place in town that all of the adults always told us, "You must never go there." So, we decided to go there in secret. This place was an abandoned shrine, and as a child, it felt creepy and unnatural. I didn't really want to go, but my brother and his friends basically dragged me along, so I had no choice but to go with them. On the day, my brother and I went around lunchtime to check the place out beforehand. Yet some guy in his 20s from the city office or the mayor's office or something was there for work when we got there. "Hey, you kids mustn't ever come near here, you understand? Hurry up, get out of here, alright?" He chased us away, but that night my brother and his friends followed through with their plan anyway. The shrine was located on high ground within the city, and from there another hill extended upwards as well. It was a creepy hill with an almost endless line of shrine gates going up it. We all froze when we saw it, and then one of my brother's friends suggested, "Let's split up." It was decided that my brother and I would form a team, and his 3 friends would form the other team. We walked around for a bit, and then, I don't know if it was the air or the space itself, but something changed. I was about to tell my brother that I wanted to go home when he said, "Let's go. Right now." He grabbed my arm and pulled me out of there. Before long, my brother stopped in front of the line of shrine gates, trembling as he looked at them. I nervously turned to look as well. There were several children standing there, as though something was blocking their path. All of their faces were expressionless, and their eyes white. Unable to stand it any longer, my brother screamed and started running, dragging me behind him. We cut through the kids, and just as I thought we were about to be free, my brother screamed and fell to the ground. I turned to look at him, and the kids we'd just seen were clinging to him. I tried to run, to go and get help, but I couldn't move. The lower half of my body felt unreasonably heavy, and when I turned to look at them again, an old woman was clinging to my brother, her eyes white and teeth bared. I was so scared that I thought I was going to die. I closed my eyes, waiting for death to claim me, and the old woman latched onto me. "Come, come, come this way," she muttered, as though transferring her voice directly into my brain. Until that moment, I was ready to die, but the moment I heard the voice, I suddenly opened my eyes. The old woman was climbing up me, and her face was right in front of my own. I screamed as loud as I possibly could, but even so, I didn't think that anyone nearby would hear it and notice me. I turned to look at my brother, wondering what had happened to his friends, and the children were dragging him deeper into the shrine grounds. I screamed with all my might, trying to get help from someone, anyone. Then I suddenly heard a familiar voice coming from behind me. "It'll be all right now." The moment I heard it, my body felt lighter. I turned around, and it was the same man we'd seen earlier that day. There were several other adults behind him as well. I heard both angry and worried voices amongst the crowd. "Are we saved?" I thought, and I turned around to look at my brother. He seemed to be okay, and, relieved, I fell to my butt on the ground. Several men approached my brother with worried voices, and their faces instantly changed color when he informed them that there were still more kids inside the shrine. "Shit! We have to help them right now!" They screamed and ran past him. They found his friends inside the shrine, forever changed. While they were alive, the boys were badly affected mentally, and they were carried straight out of town to the hospital. As for us, we were scolded like we'd never been scolded before. Our parents even cried. We later heard that the shrine was once a regular shrine with a priest who possessed considerable power. Yet he was so powerful that spirits continued to seek out his help one after the other, gathering at the shrine. And at first he did his best to deal with them, but in the end, he was overwhelmed and he fled the shrine, abandoning it. Normally, when a priest leaves a shrine and it's to be torn down, a ritual must be held to cleanse the area, and the residing kami must be moved to a new location. Yet in this case, the shrine was merely abandoned, and with no priest to commune with the kami, as well as the rising number of spirits gathering there to seek help, the kami had twisted and warped, making the shrine a dwelling for all sorts of evil spirits. The young man was apparently a powerful exorcist that the city had summoned to cleanse the shrine grounds. According to him, he'd never seen a shrine like this before, and it would take him quite some time to purify it. He purified us, and then we went home. I promised myself I'd never go back near there again. That was more than enough. But the incident was just about to start. Several years later, we were to taste even worse fear than that. When I was in the 3rd grade of junior high, one of the more popular kids, M, started talking about visiting that shrine for a test of courage. He invited my girlfriend, my now wife, and I, and that was the trigger that set off yet another terrifying incident involving my brother in the city. I started to shake when he suggested we visit that shrine for a test of courage. "Hey, T, you're gonna come, right? I've already asked A, so Of course you're gonna come along too, yeah? Or are you gonna run off like a chicken? Em said, trying to get me worked up. Of course, I refused him. No, sorry, but I'm not going. And I don't think you should either. I'm not gonna say anything bad, but you really shouldn't go there. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen to me at all. On the contrary, he called me a coward and started carrying on, calling me all sorts of names. I tried convincing him not to go, but it was no good. I should have just told him why, but that man and the other people that day warned me never to say anything to anyone about what happened. The reason for that was, plainly speaking, that the relationships between people aren't simple things. They're deep and complicated. For example, if you even just briefly speak to someone, even just a greeting, you now have a relationship and you're tied to each other. It doesn't matter whether your relationship is good or not, you're still tied to each other. He said this is also connected to the famous kotodama, or the power of language. So, if I spoke to someone else about the incident that I was involved in, I, of course, had ties to the evil spirits at the shrine. And if I told someone else about what happened there, they might use me as a conduit to summon that person there as well. That was why I couldn't say anything. If I did, complete strangers might even hear of it, or M might go and tell other people as well. Although I was somehow able to refuse him, I was left helpless and people around school started calling me a coward, a weakling who would let his girlfriend go but wouldn't go himself. It didn't go quite so far as bullying, but I was isolated from my classmates. Why did M act that way? I wouldn't find out until it was all over several years down the line. I figured I'd try to convince A at the very least not to go, but she wouldn't hear me out. R is going and I promised. I can't back out now. R was her close friend. She'd heard what M was saying about it and it seemed she was starting to doubt me as well. I didn't want A to go there alone, but I also didn't want to go back there again. And I couldn't tell her why she couldn't go either. If I told A, then M or R would probably have dragged the story out of her. As I debated what to do, I remembered something. After that incident, the man handed my brother and I a charm that looked like a rosary. It's likely that harm will try to find you again in the future. I won't go so far as to say keep this on you at all times, but at the very least, keep it near. As long as it's not anything too powerful, simply having this will keep you from danger. Okay? I handed it over to A. I really can't go, but I want you to take this. Please don't lose it. She looked somewhat troubled, but she agreed and took it from me. I had 2 charms, so I thought I'd be okay with giving her one. My brother had the other one, but he no longer lived at home. I'll talk about that later. Then the day for their test of courage arrived. It was a night that was about to turn into a nightmare. On the night of the test, I started to regret how things had played out. I probably should have forced them not to go. And I was awful for letting A go even though I was too scared to go myself. As I sat troubled in my room, the phone downstairs rang. My parents didn't answer it, so I went down and picked it up. It's bad. You've got to come over here right away. It was R on the other end. What do you mean? What happened? Is A okay? Just get over here and help! We're at the shrine! Get over here, now! I feared the worst. Regret filled me. Something terrible had happened to A because I was too scared to go. My worry for A outweighed my fear of the shrine, and I decided to head over there. However, if I went over there alone, I probably wouldn't be able to do anything to help them anyway. After debating what to do, I decided to talk to my parents about it. I probably should have done that right from the start. But if I told them that people were making fun of me and calling me a coward, A would hate me. Thinking of nothing but my own self-preservation, I said nothing. I hated myself. Honestly, I wanted to talk to my brother about it, but after that incident, he continued to suffer from ghostly attacks. It seemed the incident had a bigger effect on him than it did on me. He went to stay with the exorcist at his head temple. I don't know if that's what it's called, but I'll call it that for now. For purification, and so he wasn't at home. When he left, my brother handed me his charm and said, "I'm heading over there now, so you keep this. 2 is bound to be better than 1. When I told my parents what had happened, they both panicked. "Gather the others and call the exorcist. You do not leave the house," they said, and ran out. Yet I was worried about A and the others, so I ran over to the shrine ahead of them. But I should have realized. It wasn't strange for one of A's classmates to know my number. They could have asked her for it after all. But how did they call me from the shrine? Cell phones weren't that common at the time, and none of us had one. I arrived at the shrine gate at the entrance and hesitated. The air felt different, but I readied myself and went inside. I went inside on trembling legs, but I couldn't see those evil spirits anywhere. Strange. The shrine grounds were quiet. Too quiet. If something was happening, I should have been able to hear the others screaming and crying. As I went further in, I saw someone sitting down. Looking closer, it was A. I quickly ran over. "A, are you okay? What happened? Where are the others?" I shook her by the shoulders. T. She burst into tears. "What on earth happened? Are you hurt? Where did the others go?" "I don't know. We were walking around, and suddenly everyone fell quiet and went off ahead. I went to chase after them, but I tripped. And I called out, but nobody answered me. Then some strange kid came out and dragged me over here." That was definitely no good. It was just like last time. And then I realized how strange it was that they were able to call me. At any rate, I had to get A out of there. I turned around, and 2 or 3 kids were standing there, looking at us. Crap. I tried to get A to stand up so we could run, but then I noticed something. The kids looked different to last time. They were angry. "That kid, that's the one that dragged me here," A said, crying. "Leave here. Leave this place at once," the kids said to us. Why? I looked closer at them. I knew them. I knew those kids. The moment I realized that, I remembered who they were. My brother's friends from the first time we came here. Ah, I see. That's it, isn't it? You guys brought us out here, didn't you? You protected her from the evil spirits. I was crying. These kids are okay. Let's get out of here while we still can. Once the adults get here, we can look for the others, I said to A, calming her down. She just nodded her head and started walking. But then the air around us suddenly changed. A noticed it as well and stopped in her tracks. I looked around, and the evil spirits were closing in on us. We screamed at the same time and sank to the ground. The kids had been keeping them back, but had they reached their limit? A and I grabbed each other and trembled in fear. But the evil spirits didn't approach us. I realized it was because I had the exorcist charm, and A had hers on her arm as well. Their power together must have been even stronger than one alone. It seemed the spirits couldn't get any closer to us. A, we're gonna run. We had the charms with us, so we're gonna be okay. Listen, we've gotta run. No stopping or turning around, okay? A nodded and gripped my hand tightly. I grabbed a nearby stick and swung it around as we ran. I could feel the spirits following us from behind. The shrine gate came into view. Once we pass through there, we'll be okay. We're almost there. I screamed to A as we ran, and then, finally, we passed through the gate. Filled with relief, both of us fell to the ground. But when I looked up, the evil spirits were right there beside us. There were so many of them. There had only been 4 or 5 back at the shrine. Their numbers should have decreased with the purification of the shrine grounds, and yet... But more importantly, how were they able to leave the shrine? We had the charms, so why were they able to get so close to us? We had been fine until just a minute ago. We trembled in fear, and then the spirits got even closer. Why? Why? What did we even do? Forgive us! Forgive us! Help! Mum! Mum! A screamed. I screamed for help as well, but nobody noticed. On the contrary, I realized not a single street or house light in the area was even on. The spirits started to drag us away. Just like last time, I started to think, I'm going to die now, aren't I? A had stopped screaming. Maybe she was unconscious. As they started to drag us beneath the shrine gate, I suddenly heard a loud sound. I came back to my senses, and all of the spirits were gone, and the nearby lights on. A was just as surprised as me. We looked at each other, wondering if we'd been saved. Then we realized that both of our charms had broken. No way! The charms had broken in exchange for our lives? Some adults came running over as I pondered the thought. The exorcist was among them, as was my older brother. I told them everything that had happened. We got told off, but they treated us kindly at the same time. A few remained to take us home, while the exorcist and other adults continued on. I realized that my brother was with them as well. I'm not free of this either, and to completely purify myself, I apparently have to return one more time, he said. Then, I announced that I'd like to join them as well. Of course, the others greatly opposed this, but I held some responsibility as well. Plus, there was something I wanted to check that I could only do myself. I refused to budge an inch, and they agreed on the condition that everyone stayed together and I didn't go off on my own. A looked at me like she knew what I wanted to check, but couldn't figure out why I still wanted to go back inside. I shook off my fear and followed everyone into the shrine once more. I told my brother about his friends as we walked up the path. Yeah, I see. Those guys, they passed away recently. They came to see me too. I see. They protected you, huh? Thank you. Thank you. He thanked the kids through his tears. I thanked them as well, crying. After walking a little further, my brother started to change. He fell to the ground and his face twisted in pain. The evil spirits seemed to be pressing down on him. The exorcist quickly ran over to dispel them, but it didn't seem to work. It took himself and several others before they were finally able to break him free. After that, we found my classmates lying in front of what I guessed to be the shrine's Goshintai, the object that housed the resident kami. It was a sea of blood. I was unable to stop myself from throwing up. An ambulance was called immediately to come pick them up. They were badly injured, but thankfully, they were still alive. Yet I wondered how the spirits were directly able to harm their flesh. Then, they found M's dead body behind the shrine. They told me not to look, so I didn't, but this was the thing that I wanted to confirm. I'll tell you why later. The exorcist announced that he could no longer leave the area like this, so a large-scale purification was carried out. Apparently, it was better to do this slowly, eventually returning the residing kami to its original state. But this incident made things more urgent, and so they had no choice but to go ahead with the purification. Several days later, the ritual began. I'd seen such rituals on TV before, but this one was entirely different. A and I took part as we were connected to the shrine. I'll never forget what I saw there for the rest of my life. Even though somebody died during the incident, it never made the papers. Apparently the exorcist and other city workers used their influence to keep it from the news. I thought it was to protect others from being infected as well, but apparently there was another reason. It was a reason I wouldn't learn until many years later, alongside the truth of what really happened. After that, I entered and then graduated high school, before moving out of the city for work. A also left town after graduation to start university. The two of us moved in together, and then got married after she graduated. More time passed, we had a daughter, and when she turned 5, we returned home for a Buddhist ceremony. On the way back, we passed by that shrine. The shrine and the shrine gate had been built anew, and it looked completely different to how it had in the past. That incident, the incident in which someone lost their life, the reason I had to confirm M's death was... Hey, T, when we were attacked by those spirits that time, M was amongst them, wasn't he? That was why you had to go back in and check, right? A said, remembering it as well. Yeah. The two of us fell silent. Mama, I need to use the toilet, our daughter E said, so We rushed towards home. "I want to play outside," E said as we kicked back at home. "Okay, but be careful of cars and don't go too far, okay?" I replied. Yet I grew worried when she didn't return, so I set out to find her. She came running back, her face covered in tears. "Where did you go? I was worried sick," I said, but the next words out of her mouth were unbelievable. This strange old man told me to come over. I said no, and he grabbed my arm. Then another person from behind dragged me into the temple, and I couldn't get out." She must have meant the shrine. I was dumbfounded. It couldn't be. A's face went pale as well. "And then? What happened then? Did you see anything? Are you okay?" A quickly checked her over. "No, I didn't see anything. I waited, and then the door opened, and I came back. Papa, Mama, I'm sorry." A hugged her as she cried, frantically rubbing her hair. I called my brother right away. After that incident, my brother said he wished to return to the head temple to continue training. He had various ideas, and after receiving permission from our parents and the exorcist, he went over to the temple. He soon answered the phone. "Ah, T, it's been a while. I was planning on heading back the day after tomorrow. You..." "What? Why? Why? What happened?" He seemed to realize that something had happened, so I explained it to him. "Get out of the city, right now." "No, it might already be too late." "Alright, listen, talk to our parents and the manager of the shrine. Lock yourself inside it. Under no circumstances come out. Do you hear me? I'm coming over right now." "You're kidding, right? Why do we have to go up there? What's going on?" I had no idea what was happening. "The thing that's after you, it's no joke. It's on an entirely different level to evil spirits or ghosts. It's a demon. I can't believe this. How does something turn into that to begin with?" "Look, go to the shrine right now," he said, and then hung up. Confused, I told everyone what was going on, and we rushed over to the shrine, shutting ourselves inside. We decided to wait in the room with the Goshintai until morning. Late into the night, I finally grew tired. "Hey, it's me! I'm here, open up!" I heard my brother's voice coming from the other side of the door, yet I couldn't be sure that it was really him. "If you want in, then just enter through the other door," I said. A and I knew who it really was. "M, it's you, isn't it? We know it's you. Why are you here? Why are you doing this?" The moment I said it, the doors blew open and M stood there, looking exactly the same as the day he'd died. "Ah, it's the man who tried to take me away," E said. I knew it. I thought it was him. And the figure who dragged E into the shrine had to be the resident Kami-sama. The Kami-sama had returned to normal and had protected our daughter for us. That was what I felt as we sat beside the Goshintai. "Why is his body all black? Why doesn't he have eyes?" our daughter said. I looked at him again, and M seemed to be wrapped in a black aura. It wasn't that he had no eyes. It's that His eyes were also pitch black. Waves of hatred, malice, and evil wafted off him so strongly that I felt like I was going to pass out. A demon. I remembered what my brother said. He was a demon. How on earth could a human become a demon? I trembled at his terrifying presence before us, and I knew that I had to protect my family. We stared at each other for a while. Perhaps M feared that if he tried to attack us, the Goshintai would interfere somehow. I stood in front of A and E like a shield as they hugged each other behind me. M's powers would wane as morning came, and the exorcist would then purify the area again. M glared at the Goshintai full of hatred, as though he knew this to be true as well. Then he muttered something, glared at A and E in turn, and then disappeared. The sun rose. Relief filled me. It was over. A cried. E was asleep. Before long, my brother arrived with a few others in tow, and they carried out another purification ritual. Considering who they were up against, they went through a bit of trouble, but in the end, they were successfully able to carry it out. Then they called us into the room with the Goshintai and explained the real truth behind not only what happened this time, but last time as well. First of all, M. He was so far gone that they were unable to purify or cleanse him. The only thing they could do was erase him entirely, destroy his soul. This was a true death. He would be unable to reincarnate, unable to move on to the other side, and the soul he'd carried for countless generations would be gone. I didn't once think that he was actually that terrifying. I heard that M had died a strange death, but in reality, it was a suicide. Apparently the injuries our classmates had was his fault as well. And he was also the one behind the evil spirits that time. His goal behind the whole trip being A all along. My brother said he understood everything the moment M was purified. It all began from something small, a slight he felt towards me. Then he started to compare us, and his resentment grew. In retaliation, he planned to take my girlfriend, A, away from me, and so he tried to steal her. I had also heard this from A as well. Yet she refused his advances, and he gradually got more and more serious about it. Yet because he was unsuccessful in drawing her attention away from me, his hatred grew, and he directed it in my direction. M knew about the incident at the shrine years earlier. He must have overheard some adults talking about it. So he went there himself and nailed a straw doll to the largest tree there, promising to curse and then kill me. The evil spirits lurking there tried to take him as well, but on the contrary, his hatred was so great that they fell victim to him as well, and he used them to do his own bidding. Then he apparently decided that he would become an evil spirit himself, kill and then possess me, and then force A to be with him on the other side. He thought little of our classmates other than they were mere sacrifices. At first, he planned to kill everyone together, but the charm that I gave A, as well as my brother's friends, got in the way. So he quickly put in the fake call to me. I forgot to mention something important. M was already dead by the time the test of courage began. Apparently, he hung himself after nailing that straw doll of me to the tree. That was probably why they told me not to look that time. He tried to use the evil spirits to kill us, but was unable to because we had the charms. He then used his powers to let the spirits out of the shrine, and although we couldn't see them, apparently my brother's friends fought hard to protect us. Then, when the charms burst while protecting us, that power thrust the spirits back into the shrine. When the purification ritual was being carried out, M hid himself inside the large tree and pretended to be gone as well, letting his hatred grow even stronger as he waited for his chance to return. When he saw E, he took that as his chance to move again. Only this time, the Goshintai he had once tried to use himself had thwarted him and put an end to his efforts. I didn't know what to say. Not only was I not aware of what had gone on, I was unable to hide my shock at me being the cause of it all. Ah, so that was why he... The other two apparently didn't hear what M said before he disappeared, but I did. Why? Why? Why is it always you? I cried. For the people who'd gotten wound up in all of this. For M. For myself. And for everything that had gone on. I cried. It's over now. It's over. We'll be okay. A said, crying as well. Papa? Mama? Are you hurt? Did that man do something to you? E looked at us, worried. I hugged the two of them tight, crying. The nightmare was over. I was wrapped in both guilt and relief. After that, we went to visit the graves of everyone who had died. I conveyed my strong thanks to my brother's friends and promised to come back and see them each year. I went to visit M's grave as well. A grave without a soul. I didn't know what to say to him. All I could do was light some incense, put my hands together, and pray. The classmates M attacked that time are doing fine now. Apparently they had no memory of what happened after entering the shrine grounds. I received a letter suggesting that we hold our class reunion sometime soon as well. My daughter E is now in elementary school, and she's doing fine. Apparently after her brush with the kami-sama, the exorcist said that she was something special. I don't suppose you could let us take her under our care? He asked. Of course, I politely refused. Apparently E's powers of warding off spirits are so strong that regular evil spirits can't even get close to her. I wonder if we should be happy about that. A smiled bitterly. When we went to visit a different shrine, they informed us that numerous spirits were watching over us. They're all watching over us, huh? For as long as I live, I'll never forget how thankful I am to everyone. And finally, that shrine no longer resembles anything that it once did. Now there are children playing in the shrine grounds, and they even hold festivals every now and then. But I'll never forget what happened to us there. I've written this story down so the acts of those who died there will never be forgotten. I've done my best to explain it as accurately as possible so that I'll never forget it either. If you want to chat about this week's or any of the stories featured on Kowabana, come and join us in the Discord. You can find the link on kowabana.net. And make sure to follow us on YouTube for even more terrifying stories each and every day. You can find us at youtube.com/Kowabana Japan. We also have over 100 exclusive bonus episodes over on our Patreon that you can start listening to right now and help support the show. You can find that at patreon.com/Tara A. Devlin. Thanks guys, stay safe, and I'll see you again next time for even more Kowabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. Want even more scary stories? Head over to kowabana.net for new translations every week. You can also join our Patreon for exclusive stories you won't find anywhere else. Head over to kowabana.net now.